Hello and welcome to Crossing Streams podcast, the podcast that delves into the weird and wonderful world of live streaming. As always, I'm here with my lovely co-host, Melula. Yay! And special guest, Emma Fyffe. Yes!
Woo!
Yay!
Yay! Just
Cool.
yay all around.
Yay! Thank you for being here. Thank you.
Of course.
Thank you. So, for those who don't know, Mel is an amazing streamer. Make sure you go follow her. Her name is Melula, and Emma Fyffe can be found at Emma Fyffe. So, Emma, thank you for being here. We're going to just talk all about you. It's going to be all about you first. And sort of just get into, then how you came to Twitch, because you've not been on Twitch very long, really officially, have you?
No. Well, the funny thing is I've owned my name on Twitch for quite a long time because, again, I'm very consistent with my branding. I'm just Emma Fyffe everywhere all the time. So I wanted to make sure that I owned my name, and I was streaming for other companies on their Twitch channels previously. So again, like, I was familiar with the platform of Twitch, but as far as streaming on my own Twitch channel goes, no, I only started doing that in March of this year.
And I honestly, like, from watching your channel, I feel like you've been there for ages.
Oh, well, thank you.
And Mel, how long have you been on Twitch now? How long has it been?
I think 2 years. But in the same way, I set up an account to be a viewer for a long time. And then when I did start streaming, it was ridiculously ad hoc and no schedule and just like, oh, I'll do this today.
Yeah.
But yeah.
What was it, Mel, though, that made you kind of go, right, I think I need to... Because I think a lot of streamers, when they start off, because I was the same, I was like, right, I'll just stream. I'll just stream when I stream. And then I started to think, no, I need to actually have a schedule. What was it that brought you to that frame of mind?
I started like actually making connections with viewers and finding people who enjoy the same kind of games. In which case, like when I started, it was I was streaming straight from my PlayStation. So you tend to attract more people who are very PlayStation centric, not wanting to spark a console wars conversation because we're all gamers, guys.
Yes.
We're all gamers. I think because I started to attract an audience and start sort of like getting a very baby community, I was just like, I need to be a little bit more organized with this rather than, hey, I'm streaming now.
Yes.
No notice.
Yes.
Nothing else. Just I'm here.
No, you're right. And you start to, I think people, it's like television. People start to go, oh, I'm tuning in at this time for that person. And it's strange because it doesn't feel like there's any organization with Twitch streaming, but there's a lot of organizations sometimes, which we will get to because it's all about Emma now. Let's get to Emma. So it's all about you, Emma. It's the Emma party.
Yes.
It's the fiefdom party. So Emma,
Yes.
before we talk about what you do, how you came to Twitch, let's go right back to the beginning. Okay, have you always been into computers, video games, that kind of thing?
Yeah. So I am the child of two programmers. My parents kind of became programmers when we were still figuring out exactly what computer programmers are, because this would have been like late 70s, early 80s. But anyway, when I was really little, we had a Macintosh computer. It was the first, I believe, Macintosh,
Yes.
as opposed to like the Apple. And so on our Macintosh, we had this game. It was a like point and click story game called Manhole, where basically like a beanstalk grew out of this manhole and you could climb down or you could climb up. And like, you just kind of clicked through and discovered things. And I remember there was a whole Alice in Wonderland thing. And I used to play that game all the time when I was about 2 years old. So I came into gaming and stuff very early. My dad also owned a Nintendo. And I used to play Duck Hunt all the time.
Oh, yes.
The one where you had
Duck
the gun
Hunt.
and had to shoot at the screen. But the hilarious thing is that, again, we had this Nintendo. And I loved to, I tried to play Super Mario Brothers. It was a bit challenging for a 2-year-old. And I also loved watching my dad play Legend of Zelda, but Duck Hunt was one that like I could play, though I'm pretty sure I stood about, 2 inches away from the screen. So I was kind of cheating as far as shooting the ducks went. But as a kid, I didn't know that the game was called Duck Hunt. I used to refer to it as shooting ducks because that's what you do in the game. You shoot ducks.
Yeah.
Well, then we got next gen consoles. We got like a Sega Genesis and a PlayStation and a GameCube and a Dreamcast and a PS2, et cetera, et cetera. I didn't really, go back and play those Nintendo games again. So many, many years later, I was at a party at the house of a girl who was playing in the orchestra of a show I was doing. And we were having a party, and in her basement, because a lot of houses in Connecticut are these sort of like split level raised ranches with finished basements where people have these sort of like hangout gaming rooms. So we're down in there, and they had an old Nintendo, and I was like, oh, I want to play shooting ducks. And everyone was like, do you mean Duck Hunt? And I was like, no, it's called shooting ducks. No, it turns out the game is in fact called Duck Hunt. So yeah, from a very early age, I definitely was into video games, shall we say.
Oh, and what's your earliest video game memory, Mel? Do you have like one that really stands out to you?
I think we touched on this when we did our first crossing streams, but it's going to be Alex Kidd in Miracle World
That's
for
right,
me.
yes.
That's the first one I can remember playing and finding infuriating, but really enjoying the whole rock paper scissors boss fight thing.
Yeah.
Because as a kid, I understood that. But yeah, no, that would have been my Master System 2.
Yes, and I was an Atari kid. And in terms of pop culture, Emma, what kind of pop culture did you like as a kid? Because as we know, we've seen you doing various things online. Pop culture is your job now, but tell us your earliest pop culture memories.
Yeah. So when I was a kid, my absolute favorite movie in the entire world was The Dark Crystal, the Jim Henson movie that is only puppets.
Yes.
Yeah, we had it on Laserdisc, but we also had this other like weird video player that I still have not been able to find any evidence of. So maybe I imagined it, where it was almost like the discs that you put into this machine were like giant floppy disks. So whereas like laser discs are like giant CDs, these were almost like giant floppy disks. And I think we had Dark Crystal on one of those as well. I'll have to ask my dad exactly what that was called. But yeah, that was my absolute favorite movie when I was a kid. And then one of the funniest things I've sort of discovered in my childhood collection of things that I made was in nursery school, we had to make these books that were about about ourselves. And most kids are writing like, I don't know, stuff about their families. My entire book was about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Oh yeah. All about the turtles. And
oh my god, yeah, I loved Ninja Turtles when I was a kid.
Were you into Ninja Turtles as well, Mel? Were you a Ninja Turtle fan?
I used to watch the cartoons a lot. We were talking about them the other day, and I think we were just generally going on about who our favorite turtle was. I think mine was Donatello, but it was purely down to, I mean, my main memories of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles are always linked to them getting pizza.
Yes,
I can't tell
that's
you,
fair.
Yeah, I can't tell you about any plots or like any like overarching things. It's just the fact they always had pizza.
Yes.
And as a kid, that just seemed like goals.
Yes.
Because they animated the pizza so great. That's the thing, is that like the animated pizza in the Ninja Turtles cartoon is
so it's the
choice.
We talked about this on another show with Inel and Mel's other half. And Inel was saying, yeah, the cheese, like everything looked so good in that blooming pizza. Oh my god, it's so good. I really loved Donatello. Like Donatello, he had brains. The one with the brains and the big stick. Which sounds weird.
Yeah.
Whoops.
Wow.
So I really, really loved Donatello. Anything else you loved when you were a kid, like Disney or anything like that?
Yeah. So when I was little, I loved Disney movies. We had as many of the classics as were available on home release at that point. So it was like Cinderella, Sleeping Beauty. I definitely remember watching those a lot as a kid. But then, the real Disney Renaissance of the late 80s through mid 90s started when I was a little kid. I mean, the first movie I can remember going to see in the movie theater is The Little Mermaid. Yeah, so that was in 1989, and so my brother had just been born, and my dad and I went to see it together because my brother was quite little. My mom did see it eventually, but my dad took me to see it by myself the first time, and then obviously like Beauty and the Beast and Aladdin followed up. As I can see, you've got the image up of me in my my belle dress.
Yeah, you're so cute.
Yeah, that's my brother with me too, dressed as Captain Hook. So yeah, we were both Disney kids for sure. But the hilarious thing about that dress is that my at the time, it was before there were licensed patterns, or before there were licensed patterns at large that came out 2 days later. So now, for example, you go see something like Frozen.
Yeah.
A day later, I think Simplicity has the Disney license. It's one of the pattern companies. I'm pretty sure that they have that they have the license. So literally, Frozen comes out in theaters a week late, not even a week later, like concurrently, Simplicity's got Frozen patterns in their pattern books.
Mhm.
So this dress, it was like some offshoot, like dancer. I don't know. My mom found this pattern and basically made it work for my bell costume.
Oh, so cute.
Yeah, and again, we lived in Connecticut, so sometimes it was quite chilly on Halloween. So she also made me that cloak to go with it. And I remember the cloak was it was sort of a like velvety texture.
Oh, thoughtful mother and practical mother. I love it.
Very thoughtful and practical. But yeah, I mean, I also, one of the shows that I remember watching in terms of my earliest TV watching memories is like Star Trek: The Next Generation. So
Yes.
again, I came by my interest in what's sort of considered to be nerdy or geeky pop culture, quite honestly, because when you're little, you're mostly getting content that is curated by your parents, or you're incidentally discovering through your parents because they like it. And so my parents were really into things like Star Trek and Star Wars. I mean, I'd seen the entire original trilogy of Star Wars by the time I was 5 at the oldest. I may have been 4.
Whoa.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Big Star Wars fan then. Huge.
Absolutely. Yes.
I was more like Indiana Jones, and then I liked a lot of Arnold Schwarzenegger films. I was just like, I liked like ground-based adventure with a bit of sci-fi. But what about you, Mel? We know that you love the Labyrinth and things like that. And your channel.
Yes.
Why I was very excited when you said Dark Crystal, because I love any Henson movie like that has a shed load of Muppets, because I think they're just amazing. And as a kid, it just seems so much more magical. Because you're like, that's not a person. That's I don't know, a Skeksis. I'm not gonna lie, the Dark Crystal scared the hell out of me as a child.
Yeah.
You're not alone.
Yeah. And I only just rewatched it recently when they brought out the Netflix Dark Crystal series, which I really enjoyed.
Oh, I loved it so much.
But I think otherwise movies for me would be like adventure-esque type stuff. So like Indiana Jones, the Alan Quatermain movies, which are on the top, like anything that had a little bit of like, I don't know, there might be a tomb and some puzzles they need to figure out, and there's always that little bit of like danger. So basically like adult versions of the Goonies before I saw the Goonies.
Yes.
So yeah, that was kind of like my yardstick when I was younger, but very much the same. It's those are the sort of movies my parents were watching. So that's what we had on VHS. So therefore I watched the same 3 movies that were on the long play VHS, because if I wanted to watch something today, there's no video on demand. I'm just going to put that VHS in again.
Yeah.
So.
And if you watch Mel's channel, you will see that she's just talked about like Jim Henson stuff and detective things. You will see all of that in Mel's channel. You get a real flavor of like Mel through her channel as well as Emma's. But yeah, such a vibe when I'm at Mel's channel. I'm like, lovely nostalgia, happy 80s times. So good, so good. So
let's live with the synth.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
And so we've got like nerd culture. You grew up with nerd culture, Emma, but now that brings us to, what you're doing now. So let's talk about the first jobs you had and that the first foray into the world of media, because we know what you do now, but what were those first jobs that you had that kind of got your feet wet?
Well, I think that a lot of where my start in broadcasting, weirdly enough, came from was working as a tour guide at Universal. Like, obviously I wasn't broadcasting because I wasn't on air, but there was a lot of that, being able to compose a cohesive story on the fly with a beginning, a middle, and an end, and transition between topics. I got so much practice simply with conveying information through giving tours on the tram at Universal, you know, a job that I still technically sort of have, even though I'm furloughed from it. But it was interesting because I actually had done a little hosting job not too long before I got my job at Universal, which was, there used to be these very trashy blogs, not BuzzFeed, but Buzz Media was the name of the company. And they had a whole bunch of different blogs. And I did a very short-lived video game show for what was, you know, it was this weird show where they kind of had segments of, there was one girl who was the main host, and then there were a few other hosts, myself and some guys, who did sort of our own segments. I remember doing a segment one time on like the future of E3 and if it was going to continue to be able to be in Los Angeles, et cetera, et cetera. But it was intercut with like videos of underwear models playing video games in their underwear. Yeah.
I wasn't expecting that. Did you see my face? I went,
yeah. Yeah, it was, listen, it was a real, this site, they basically were trying to hide legitimate content in stuff that was legitimate gaming content, I should say, because you know what? Power to you. If that's the kind of content you're into, is just ladies sitting around in their underwear, hey, someone's getting paid to do that, and good for them. And so, yeah, it was very strange. But then I started working at Universal. And when I was at Universal, a few of my coworkers had started doing some broadcasting over at AfterBuzz TV, which that's what the photo is from. That little montage that you have there was working with AfterBuzz. Now, I would like to be clear about AfterBuzz because I have a lot of positive feelings towards them, even though it is not a paying job. The thing about AfterBuzz, and certainly when I came on board with them, was they very much were pitching the setup as, this is a school, effectively. This is a place for you to come in, to get experience, to make connections, to make friends, to get used to being on camera and broadcasting. So again, like, at the time when I really didn't have any experience outside of having had that one little job, knowing that I liked doing this, feeling like I was good at it. And also I had a Sailor Moon podcast at the time called Love and Justice, which I wanted to get more people listening to. So I was like, well, the only way to do that is for me to get out there and get myself seen and my voice heard by more people. And so AfterBuzz was a great outlet for me to do that. And honestly, that the photos we have up are from Comic-Con 2016, because Yel Teagle, the woman who was in charge of AfterBuzz's social media at the time, oh my God, she hustled for San Diego Comic-Con. She got us so many good press lines and interviews. And it's like, we were all paying for our own hotel rooms. None of us were getting a cent. But it still was one of my favorite Comic-Con experiences because like Yel worked so hard for us and it was so much fun. And it was just us like rolling up our sleeves and getting stuff done with our friends. So I was working a lot of the time with my buddy Mark Donica, who is on who also has a Twitch channel as well. Now he's made the foray into that world. But yeah, I have so many great memories. And obviously like I got to interview Mark Summers, and I'm like, and the Shrine of the Silver Monkey was right there. Okay. Like as like a Nickelodeon kid, this was a freaking dream come true. And Mark Summers told me I was really good at my job.
You're like, yes,
so
yes.
But yeah, so again, like I was super lucky and I got to get a lot of experience that way. I covered the international premiere of the absolutely awful live action Attack on Titan movie. But then I also got to cover the premiere of like Ash vs. Evil Dead, which was a huge deal to me because I love Evil Dead, and I was doing the after show for Evil Dead, for Ash vs. Evil Dead. And so again, like it put me in this position where I got to be really confident in what I was doing. And also it's through doing stuff with AfterBuzz and their affiliate movie network, Popcorn Talk, that I met the people who started giving me real jobs.
Oh.
I did an episode of their Star Wars show on Popcorn Talk. I was hosting the Star Wars Rebels after show on AfterBuzz. Because AfterBuzz mostly just does after shows for TV shows where it's like, you watch the episode, host gets together, we talk about what happened. But Jedi Alliance, their main Star Wars show on Popcorn Talk, was doing a Star Wars Rebels after show. So at the time, it was, again, Mark Donica and then my friend, Joseph Scrimshaw, who were hosting it at the time. And so Joseph basically asked me, like, oh, hey, you host the Rebels after show. Do you want to be on our Star Wars Rebels episode of Jedi Alliance? And I said, sure, absolutely. That sounds great. And then Joseph was like, man, you're really cool and you know about Star Wars. Do you want to be on Force Center sometime? Okay, which is Joseph and Ken Knapsack and Jennifer Landa's. Jennifer Landa at the time, she's kind of taken a step back because she's got children and stuff. But they asked me if I wanted to be on their Star Wars podcast. Ken was working at Screen Junkies at the time. And so I started doing some stuff over there. Ken moved over to Collider. And then when Ken moved over to Collider at the time, Christian Harloff was the director of development. And so he basically sent me a message and said, hey, we're trying to like expand our roster of people here. Would you want to come by sometime? We'll get you on Schmoes at some point. And then also, of course, I got involved in the Schmodown. So it was just sort of like, it was a chain reaction of there. So this all happened end of 2016.
Oh my God. So like everything happened at once.
It did. Yeah, it really, really did. Like, again, because I felt, because, you know, when I was first starting in AfterBuzz, I felt like, oh man, like I'm really building up my following. This is great. Like feeling good about where things are going. And then like anybody, you hit sort of a career plateau.
Yes.
But yeah, but end of 2016 is when things started to suddenly gain momentum. Like I co-hosted the Schmoes show.
Yes. I
started doing post interviews for the Schmodown. Obviously, you know, my Schmodown career has been varied, and I spent all of 2018. Yes, 2018 was the year that I was the manager of the faction, the Fyffe Club, featuring the team champions, the Shire Wolves, Clark Wolf and Rachel Cushing.
To explain to those who don't know what the Schmodown is, it's like
so
WWE for nerds, right?
Yeah, it is. It's like WWE and movie trivia.
I mean, the picture, if you're watching along live, that you can see now, I was at this and I went along with my friend Holly, and I was sort of sitting at the side.
Yeah.
And we'd also gone to a Schmodown live thing in LA as well.
Yeah, I remember that you were at that show because Clark and Rachel played in that, in the one that you went to.
I was like sitting there with Holly and I was like, oh my God, this is like, it's nerdy and it's WWE stuff. I was like, yes. Yeah. Although I'm not very good at doing like sort of general knowledge and trivia live. I'm better when I'm just talking, and I think it's a skill.
Sure. Yeah, it is. It's definitely a skill. Yeah, it's funny because like I feel like, again, my trivia knowledge, especially my sort of just like general pop culture trivia knowledge, is really quite good. I don't think my brain is wired for the kind of questions that they ask in the Schmodown. If it's like plot questions about movies that I've seen, it was so funny because I wrote the Harry Potter exhibition match that we did.
I just love that, the Harry Potter
exhibition there was a Harry Potter exhibition match. I basically, myself and Rachel Cushing wrote all the questions. There was not a single question about like who directed this movie. It was all like, when Harry does this thing in this book, like
I just don't have like Mel. if you were to take part, so say you were writing questions or some kind of round or a match for Schmodown, what would be your speciality, Mel? What would be your sort of nerd speciality? I'm interested.
I have one of these brains where I do retain random information, but in a kind of like BBC Sherlock kind of way. I need to send like my train back into the Mind Palace to find the file, dig it out, and bring it forward. So if you were suddenly to turn around to me and be just like, okay, who directed Chamber of Secrets? I would go blank.
Yeah.
Right.
But if I'm having a conversation with someone, it'll come and it'll flow and it'll come out. So with me, it would be something silly like I'd probably be like, okay, which character only appeared in the films, which were so and so and so and so and so and so.
Right.
It'd be
Yeah.
more like kind of linking stuff, or things that only like fans would know. And
Sure.
just on a side note, I'm still really pissed off that Rick Mayall is not Peeves in Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone.
Oh, yes.
And I'm just bringing that up right now because we've been watching a lot of Rick Mayall and talking about him a lot on my channel, and that is a missed opportunity because such casting.
Yes.
But yeah, sideway. Yeah, my knowledge is again varied and random, but I don't think I do that well under like test conditions.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Do you have any, like, before I ask this next question to Emma, I wanted to ask Mel, so how much of a Harry Potter fan are you? Do you think you'd fare well in an exhibition match?
I think I'd do okay. I'm very stubborn when it comes to jumping on bandwagons of things. So I didn't start reading the Harry Potter books until the movie came out. Because there was all this hubbub. I know, I was behind. So the good thing is when I saw the Philosopher's Stone, I came out of it going, this is amazing! What am I doing? I was then able to go back and basically binge up to book 3, I think. Was that at that point? Or was it?
I think so. I think so. I mean, certainly in the States, I think that's where we were at, was the first 3 books were out when the first movie came out.
But since then, I've reread what I would do is every time, and I'm sure a lot of people were doing this, every time a new book was released, I would reread from the beginning. And then build up so that it was so basically so I've read the books multiple times, I've seen the movies multiple times, so I think I'd be all right. And I've been to the
I think you do well.
The studio tour here in Leedston in the UK,
Mel,
which is amazing.
Right. I think you do right, Mel. And I wanted to ask Emma, because again, we said that's such a skill. Do you have any, if you're in that situation and someone asks you a question, are there any tips you've got for accessing that knowledge to kind of bring it out?
Whatever comes to your brain first is probably right. Don't second guess yourself.
Okay.
Trust your gut.
So just go for it. See, I think too much. I'm like, is it that? Like, I get too like, no, I'm an rubbish.
I'm an overthinker as well, so that has undone me many a time. Whatever comes to your brain is most likely correct.
Now,
but so I obviously was involved in the Schmoedown, and then again, like 2017 just was sort of like the year of my career starting to really gain some momentum. So in addition to getting involved with Schmoedown, I also started doing TV Talk at Collider, which for a while when I was there was a daily show. I was only ever on 2 or 3 days a week. But and then also, like, that was the year that Anime Expo, which is a huge anime convention that happens in Los Angeles over 4th of July weekend, decided that they wanted to do a live broadcast on their Twitch. And it was super funny. It came together in the course of like a few days. I basically got an email from my friend Brian, maybe on like the Sunday night before Anime Expo was starting, that coming like Wednesday or Thursday. And Brian was like, hey, we're thinking of doing this live stream for Anime Expo this year. Do you have materials and stuff? Like, would you want to maybe host it? And we'll pay you and blah, blah, blah. So we kind of threw that all together, and we did that 2 years, 2017 and 18. I hosted the Anime Expo live stream. The following year, I actually worked with Funimation, one of the distribution companies, on their stream, which was just 1 day. But it was, and again, like, for me, I sort of came into broadcasting in a lot of ways via my Sailor Moon podcast, and I've always been really into anime and into Japanese video games, and so it just really like made sense for me to kind of get involved in that. The photo that we have is actually from after the Persona 5 panel, which is a video game. So it's my friend Brian and my friend Xander, who were some of my co-hosts on the stream. There were 4 of us. It was us 3 as well as Erica Ishii that first year. And then our friends Max Middleman and Matt Mercer are in that photo with us, both of who worked on Persona 5. So it was that first year of the AX live stream when like the people organizing the actual convention we were like the redheaded stepchild. They like had no idea what we were doing really. They just kind of shoved us in the back of one of the panel rooms behind the main stage. And we would do, because they were broadcasting all the panels that were happening in that room. So we basically were doing these interstitials because they had a half hour in between panels. So we would then interview people who'd just been on the panel or people who had done a panel at some other point or cosplayers. But it really was like the Wild West and they had no idea what we were doing. And since we were basically just left to our own devices, that first year was so much fun. The second year was fun too, but it was a little more regulated.
And Mel, are you into, because Japanese, they're like, I've got a lot of friends that are really like Emma, like really into anime, Japanese culture, that kind of thing. Mel, are you into that kind of stuff as well?
Something I've come really late to. Like my other half, I now loves anime, and he's just like, you need to get on Crunchyroll. You need to watch this, watch that. I mean, we've started kind of going down, obviously, like the Studio Ghibli kind of route, and I have enjoyed Castlevania on Netflix. And so I'm I'm dipping my toes.
Yeah. It's like anime adjacent.
Yes, that's what I mean. It's like, it's not actual anime, but it's just like, it's along those lines. So no, I'm slowly getting there, but it wasn't something I had as a child or anything. I think it was it's something that as an adult I'm getting more of an interest in, along with like comics and graphic novels, which I'm not sure if maybe as a kid it was kind of like, that's too nerdy. You don't want to be watching that. And now that I'm an adult, I'm like, I really couldn't give a crap. I'm going to watch what I want and read what I want.
So I missed all of that. For me, it was like, I watched Ghost in the Shell and I was like, that's the best film ever. It was just like, oh my God, Ghost in the Shell. So incredible. My brother was more into like Pokemon and stuff, so he's a bit younger, and so he caught all that. And whilst he was catching all that, and then he became an uber Japanese nerd, I was out having a drink with my friends. So I was like, I'm totally getting drunk. So I was like, that's what I'm doing. So I missed it. That's hilarious. But like Mel, I've come back to it and I've gone, oh, actually, like I love Spirited Away and I love Princess Mononoke. Oh my God, like Princess Mononoke is one of my favorites. It's so good.
Me too.
So things like that I absolutely love. I still think Ghost in the Shell is just one of like the most incredible looking films. Just, it's so beautiful. So yeah, like it's nice. It's fun now that we can be nerds and it feels okay to be nerds.
Oh yeah. Oh totally. Yeah. I mean, it was crazy for me when I was hosting the stuff for Anime Expo or any. I mean, like I hosted I was one of the people on the host team for the big red carpet premiere of the new My Hero Academia movie that came out earlier this year, Heroes Rising. And it was this super weird moment of thinking back to being a kid. And I was really into Sailor Moon, obviously, because that was probably the first anime that I watched that I was like aware was anime, even though I had watched like Voltron and even Pokemon, but it just didn't really register to me like, oh, this is Japanese. It's like, oh, this is a cartoon that I'm watching. And I also had the Toei Animation, I believe 1977 version of The Little Mermaid. Spoilers, doesn't have a Disney ending. So it's more accurate to the fairy tale. But anyway, and Sailor Moon was being serialized on Cartoon Network at that point. This would have been like 97, 98, I want to say. And yeah, so I got really, really into it that way. And because I just wanted to consume as much anime as I possibly could, we were really early adopters of TiVo. And so I used to just go to the Sci-Fi Channel because I knew that Sci-Fi Channel showed anime sometimes. And I would like, push the forward button through to see what all was on their programming. And if I came across a title that I didn't know, I would open it. And if there were any Japanese names in the credits, I would record it just in case it was anime. Yeah, this is so again, like it to go from that and, knowing nobody for the most part outside of my brother that was also into anime to being at this huge convention and getting paid to like,
you must have been like, yes, I hit the big time.
Totally.
Anime nerd legitimized.
Yes. Well, and then of course, obviously, like I talked a little about how one of my early sort of pop culture interests was Star Wars. That's another thing that that has made a huge impact on my career. I mean, liking Star Wars has done wonders for my career in ways that you would think like it's weird that I am here because I like this thing. But, you know, last year I got to go to Star Wars Celebration in Chicago, which was one of the greatest moments of my life. And then also when I was hosting Collider Jedi Council, I did cover the red carpet premiere of The Mandalorian, which is what that photo is from. I sort of, it came about very last minute. I remember Thad Williams at Collider, he like called me into his office and he's like, hey, so there might be this premiere for The Mandalorian. We're waiting on confirmation. And this was 2 days before it was happening, I think. And he's like, do you think that you would be available to cover it if it comes through? And I was like, yeah, I can rearrange my schedule for that.
Well, but that just say, let me check my diary.
I sort of like frantically texted my friend Katie Elhofer, who is a designer, and Elhofer Design is her brand. She makes great stuff. But I knew that she has a bunch of Star Wars inspired dresses. And I was like, well, you know, it's not a film premiere. So television premieres are a bit more casual than film premieres. Mm-hmm. But you'd still dress up. And so I like texted Katie and I was like, can I borrow something from you for this premiere? And she's like, oh, totally. Yeah. You want to borrow the Ahsoka bodycon dress? I was like, oh yeah, that'd be perfect. So I go over and it was going to be a bit chilly that night. And she's like, oh, I actually have the sample of the shrug that goes with it if you want to wear that. And everyone else on the carpet was so jealous of my sweater.
Yes. It's a really nice, if you're watching along live, you look amazing, you look the part, it looks freaking cool.
So pretty.
Thank you. Pretty. Yeah. And so, yeah, last year was this amazing sort of journey of being a professional Star Wars fan, of getting to do coverage for Nerdist of Star Wars Celebration. And also at Star Wars Celebration, it was the first time in my life I've ever felt famous, because I got recognized constantly. I got recognized constantly. It was so funny.
Did it freak you out? It freaks me out sometimes at Comic Cons when someone goes, "Are you Claire?" And I'm like, I might be. Who is asking?
No, it was so nice. It felt so gratifying to be like, oh my gosh, there are people out there and they like my work. But yeah, because like we would stop to do, because we did all these video packages for Nerdist News Edition, and most of my stand-up bits where I'm just like introducing what this segment is about, we filmed them on the convention floor. And normally by the time we'd finished filming a segment, a crowd of people who wanted to say hello to me had gathered. Nice. Yeah, it was really cool. It was really cool.
See, Emma's dead friendly. Yeah. She's dead nice. I'm like grumpy presenter. Emma's dead positive. I'm like, I just want to go back and drink some tea and don't talk to me. Don't talk to me.
Yeah,
I pranked Claire at Comic Con, which was last year. You'd literally just come up. You were talking to Brian and Amelia on one of the open panels. Yes. And you'd finished, you'd said goodbye to them. That's Brian and Amelia from
Detroit Become Human.
Oh, yeah.
So Brian Deschart, sorry, and Amelia Roseborough. And you picked up Gilbert, your handbag, and you were obviously like shuffling off all business-like to go back to the green room. And I came up behind you and went, excuse me, you sweet Claire. And you turned around like a rabbit in headlights.
I don't like this. It's
like,
scary. Oh right, okay, shit. All right, okay, fine.
Claire doesn't like being snuck up on. She's just like, who are you?
No, I'm very friendly when people talk to me, but I'm like, I like to just get from A to B and like, right, no messing. A to B.
Got it.
And just like, and then afterwards, and I don't feel relaxed if I've got something else to do. I'm always like, right. But I was interested actually, Mel, because you work behind the camera in your day job, which is the opposite from what like Emma and I do. So Emma works in the industry where you work behind the scenes. Have you ever thought, like Mel, because you're on Twitch, you know, you're in front of the camera. Have you ever thought about coming in front of the camera for like sort of other work, like freelance day job? Have you ever considered?
Honest, if I could go back and talk to little Mel doing her A-levels and be like, you know, you wanted to be a vet, but you also want to work in TV and film, and you had to choose between those A-levels. What if I tell you, if you became a vet, you'd probably be quite rich right now?
Yeah.
With job security and probably your own business. Mm-hmm. Or you can go into TV where you're freelance and you go from job to job, and it's a bit scary. I mean, if I generally kind of weighed it up, like I did a lot of performing stuff when I was younger, dance, ballet, tap, modern, all the rest of it.
Yeah.
Did all like the Amdram productions at school. I think me going down the TV film route is because I've always enjoyed other people's performances. And my way of thinking, oh, I can be part of that, was to work in television production.
Mhm.
But I think because there is literally zero security in front or behind the camera,
Yeah.
I might as well have just flipped a coin and gone, hey.
Yeah.
So because I basically spend my day job enabling other people's editorial ideas, whether they're logistically possible or not.
Yes.
Drive me nuts. Oh my god, you drive me nuts.
Yeah. Twitch has become my creative output, where basically I produce content, and I watch enough people doing this, producing or presenting or whatever in my day job from basically behind the cameras, that I feel like I've slowly been like osmosizing. Is that a word?
Yeah,
osmosizing.
Yeah, totally a word.
Osmosizing it in, and that's basically what my Twitch channel's become. This has become my I've spent all day trying to find a third camera for a shoot that you told me would only need 2, but then gave me half an hour's notice to find another camera operator and some kits. I'm gonna go home now and do my own creative stuff.
Do it the way
this is the thing. I think that's what I find so much fulfilling about Twitch, is that your channel is your content. You don't have to do anything you don't want to.
Oh my gosh.
And you just shape it yourself. And that's why I could see when YouTube started to become such a big thing. And I feel like TV broadcasters finally kept clicking onto it about probably 10 years too late. But curated content and being able to do what you want as a personality-led content is it's a lot of work. It's knackering.
Yes.
But it's great.
It is great.
I feel the exact same way, Mel. And I think that is a lot of what my experience has been, because obviously when I started getting involved in broadcasting outside of stuff that I was literally just creating myself, which again, it was a Sailor Moon podcast. We were delving deep into all the various adaptations of Sailor Moon over the years, and there have been many. I got further and further away from making my own stuff. And that's not a bad thing, because, within a couple of years' time, I was getting paid to work for these other companies and, help create stuff for them, which is good. That is what you want as a creator. You want to get paid to create. But I do think that what you're saying makes total sense. Like, whether you are an on-camera or off-camera person normally, or whether you work at a bank during the day or whatever, the thing about creating content for Twitch is it is solely your own, and you don't have to do anything that you want to do. And also, even though right now we're doing a broadcast where there's 3 of us, and that's awesome, and I love doing like co-streams with people and having people on to stream with me or going on other people's shows, etc. At the end of the day, my Twitch channel, the only person who's responsible for that is me, and the only person who has to show up and who I have to rely on to be there in order for content to happen is me. And that is really, really refreshing for me to feel like, oh, I now have this place and this project that is mine. And so even if all of my other jobs fall apart, I still have this thing that brings me a lot of joy. It makes a lot of sense. I remember when Collider was going through some switchovers. This was before the beginning of this year, when they just full stop canceled all their panel programming. But when Mark Ellis, I can't remember if it was when Ellis was still hosting Movie Talk, or if he was leaving Movie Talk at the time. If you guys don't know who Mark Ellis is, he is a hilarious stand-up comedian. In addition to so many things, he works with Rotten Tomatoes. Obviously, he came from Schmoes, works on Schmodown, et cetera, et cetera. And is just one of the nicest people you will ever meet in your entire life.
Which is true. Which is very true. He's a gem.
But but Ellis and I used to be next door neighbors, and he sometimes wouldn't drive. Like he would have taken an Uber, gotten dropped off or something when we would do schmoes shows on like Thursday evenings, because that's when it used to be. And so I would drive him home all the time. And so we were having this conversation about why he never accepted a full-time position at Collider, even though they were looking to give him one. And he basically was like, all these companies, they fall apart, they come and go. I will always have my stand-up. Like that is the thing, is like, I need that to be my outlet for that thing that is just me. And I'm so glad it brings other people joy and that I've been able to make a career out of it. But ultimately, I am the only person responsible for showing up to do my own stand-up.
Yes.
And now with my Twitch channel, I so get it. I get it in a way that did not click for me when we had that conversation. So
well, let's talk about Twitch. I like a segue. Thank you for that.
Yeah,
she's so
you're
professional.
welcome.
So professional.
I'm very professional.
We all work in the business, people. This is the most professional crossing streams you've ever seen and witnessed. Now, guys, now we're on to Emma on Twitch. Now you'll see a really attractive image of Emma on screen.
Oh boy.
Is this the fun picture I saw yesterday?
Yes. Can we all just duck face for a moment? Kind of like, I love that so much. Oh, that is like a severe duck face. I was like, I'm trying to duck face but not be too unattractive, Emma, but that's a duck face and a half.
I know.
You're now on Twitch now. It's scary coming on Twitch, but you know, I was even before, you know, when I come on Twitch, I'd already been in front of a camera and done whatever.
Yes.
And it's scary, like, but you know, you had the community outside. This is why we brought you into Crossing Streams, because a lot of streamers, what I see, I don't know if you agree with me, Mel, they sometimes have a big viewership on Twitch, right? Then I go to their socials, and their socials are like non-existent, or there's like maybe 500 people in there, 1,000, and they're not as, it's not as burgeoning. But for you, Emma, you've got a big community on socials, and you've brought it over to Twitch.
Yeah,
So,
I've brought a small percentage of them over, but dang if they aren't dedicated.
very dedicated. How are you
so-
finding that? Are you building up a new audience, or is it your old audience? What's happening?
I think it's a lot of my old audience who've come from other things. I mean, I was in a very unique position starting on Twitch in that, yes, this is the first time that I was streaming on my own personal Twitch channel, but I'm not new to Twitch. Because again, in that year, 2017, the year of my career starting to blow up, that was also the year that Hyper RPG moved their studio from Seattle down to Los Angeles. So Zach Eubank, he was the CEO. Now he's the CCO. He's the Chief Creative Officer of Hyper RPG these days. But he had started at Geek and Sundry at Legendary Digital when they were starting to build up their Twitch channel. And basically, his business partner, the guy who eventually became his business partner, who was sort of a gaming mentor of his now wife, Malika, he kind of offered Zach a lateral move to start up a Twitch channel for him. And Zach was kind of feeling frustrated with Legendary, feeling like they weren't really taking advantage of the platform of Twitch as well as they could be. And so there was a lot more that he wanted to do. And so he came over. So he moved up to Seattle to start this company, and then basically went, you know what, in order to get the kind of like on-air to have a broader pool of on-air talent, like we need to have a studio in Los Angeles. So he came back down here, and his brother Lucas Eubank was still over at Legendary at the time. He moved over to work at Hyper, and he started to reach out to people being like, hey, we're building up this roster of tabletop RPG shows. Emma, you know, we met when you came and did Gather Your Party at Geek and Sundry one time. Would you want to be on a Star Wars RPG? And I said, yes, I would like that very much. I like how
it's like, if you like Star Wars, then just call me Emma. Like, that is like the thing now. Do you like Star Wars? Are you?
Yeah, and so I obviously said yes, and the rest is history. I
Perfect.
Spent almost 2 years playing Captain Kilara Fey on Pencils and Parsecs, which was an Edge of the Empire campaign. Fantasy Flight, Star Wars, tabletop role-playing systems are so much fun. I cannot recommend them strongly enough. But yeah, that was, that's still the best job I've ever had. So again, I was not unfamiliar with the platform of Twitch, and I did a lot of other things for them as well. In addition to just streaming video games for them during the day. For a while, they used to rotate who they would have come in and play video games. So it was like, I had one day where I came in and played games, and like Janelle Santa Cruz, who also is a wonderful Twitch streamer and one of my very dear friends, would stream Overwatch. And so again, I was very familiar with the platform of Twitch, and also built up an audience of people, some of whom came over from Schmodown, quite honestly. Like, they came over from Schmodown to watch Pencils and Parsecs when I was on it, and then they just stuck around because they're like, man, Twitch is awesome. So yeah, I got this nice little enclave of people who already were familiar with Twitch as a platform. So my community is definitely a lot of people from Hyper, and a lot of people from Schmodown who probably have also watched everything that's on Hyper, because again, like, I find that your most engaged audience members, they sort of go with you wherever you go, because they like what you're bringing to the table, and that is such a gratifying feeling. Like, it was so amazing for me to start streaming on Twitch and seeing names like, obviously, KB, who I feel like I've known for forever. Which like is virtually forever, and then like this one girl, the Queen of Thirst, in my Twitch community, Mooney Mika, who I know is a fan of my Sailor Moon podcast, which I did back in like 2014. So again, it's really cool to see how your audience sticks with you even as you grow and you change what you're doing.
And do you find that as well, Mel? Because you've grown your audience on Twitch, and I definitely, when you're in Mel's on Mel's stream, you definitely, there's a flavor that's quite, it's 80s and 90s kids, like, for sure. Like,
yeah, I've definitely got a demographic.
Yes.
I mean, it's not solely like, okay, there's nobody under the age of 30 in here,
right?
Like,
right.
it's not like that. Although, to be fair, the majority of, especially, maybe not so much the, obviously, games, I do retro stuff, but I also do more current stuff as well. But I think mainly because of what we talk about in between, or references, or someone will put a random line from a comedy show in the chat, which will be, I don't know, a quote from Red Dwarf or something.
Right.
Which I will then know and say straight back to them. We've suddenly, like, I've been saying it quite a lot recently, there's suddenly got this synchronicity where it's just like, how have I found like this little rabble of crazy people who like the same stuff as me? And if I randomly pluck a quote out of the air, they will respond to it in chat, and it's actually it's so gratifying. But yeah, I've kind of built mine up from scratch, because as a kid, I played video games since I was very young. Not as young as you, Emma. I don't think I started or two.
Listen, I was an exception.
But again, my dad was a computer engineer for IBM.
Yeah,
here in the UK. So we had one of the first PCs, and all sorts, like choose your own adventures, floppy disks, the whole lot. But I kind of grew from scratch here. But what I find really, really interesting, especially when I look at people who already have existing audiences, either on their Twitter or through other Twitch channels, or what I find fascinating is other YouTube series. It's getting those people to go, hey, have you heard about Twitch? Like, Twitch is really fun. You can interact. God. You can talk. Like, people are so scared with jumping from YouTube to Twitch.
I totally agree, Mel.
But people, once they make the switch, they stay. And I like that. I like that a lot.
I totally agree. Getting people to make the switch is like pulling teeth.
Because it's just
but once it's done,
you can stream live on YouTube. Well, I could.
I'm
not going
to.
No,
I could, but I wouldn't have all of my integration tools that I have in Twitch that make for a better user experience, both as a viewer and as a streamer.
Exactly.
Twitch is I've never really been, for me, YouTube is a passive, I am a passive YouTube watcher, and I will go to certain channels over and over again. Like the sort of nerd stuff that I like to watch, and like top 10s and stuff. But like Twitch, I think Twitch, the interactivity that you can have with a community is definitely it. And honestly, there's a lot of people though that have come and during the lockdown, during the pandemic, and they've had
I
followings.
was about to say the same thing. I was just like,
Yes.
I think a lot of people have finally gone, oh, do you know what? My friend's always banging on about this Twitch thing. Like, I'm not going anywhere for the next 3 months.
Oh yeah,
I'll check that out.
Yes, I had I had a friend text me yesterday, I want to say, and she said like, "Oh, what laptop do you use to stream on Twitch?" And I was like, "Well, first of all, I use a desktop, and secondly, like, do I need to use OBS if I want to stream Nintendo Switch games?" And I went, "Literally, yes. You need a capture card, and you have to use some sort of broadcaster system. You can't just like hook up your Nintendo to your computer and go."
But that's what, hey guys, that's what I thought when I first started streaming.
Yeah, I totally get it. No, I made that sound nastier than it was.
Yeah, Emma's sitting there going, actually, join
a lot of
Streamlabs Club. Oh my god. I was like the same when I got on PS4. I was like, right, okay, getting PS4, and I just assumed that I could have all the stuff. I don't know what I thought, and I sat there and I was like, wait a minute, I can't. Okay, I have to just stream it like this. And so it makes it feel like, I don't, because that makes it all feel special, having all of those little things and that flavor.
And that's the thing is I think there's so much room for small creators on Twitch, because it's so easy as a Twitch community to support the streamers that you like, and also as a streamer to support your own community. But yeah, and that's the thing is, like, now when I have friends come to me and they say like, oh, I'm thinking of streaming on Twitch. Again, I made it sound like, you dumb baby, how could you not know about capture cards? But honestly, I had to Google it. And again, I was at an advantage having worked with a company that was streaming on Twitch, so I understood a lot of the hardware that went into doing it, and software. But once again, like, when my friends tell me like, oh, hey, I'm thinking of streaming on Twitch, I go, amazing, because it's going to be so easy for me to like raid your streams and send my people your way. And again, just like the integration tools on Twitch make for a much more personal and supportive, I think, streaming experience. Now, obviously, anywhere you could encounter toxic communities, but that is not my community. Listen, we joke about it. All right. I did a villager grind in Animal Crossing last week, where I was looking for a new person to move into my island, or an animal neighbor to move into my island. And I was pretty nasty about some of the islanders I came across, going, oh, no, that person's trash, not inviting them to live with me.
Oh.
But again, like, it's silly. It's silly.
I like that villager grind. Like, all these Animal Crossing things. I just don't have Animal Crossing.
Listen, I have another open plot. I might do another villager grind today. We'll see what happens.
And
if
Emma
you need Nook Mile tickets, I have got like 20,000 at the moment.
Oh, really? I do. I need Nook Mile tickets.
Right, there we go. All right. We're crossing streams and they're hooking up, you guys.
Yeah.
I have no idea what that means, the Nook thing, but go for it, you guys.
Mel and I know what's up.
We need to get you a Switch.
No, I need a
and we need to get you on Animal Crossing.
I know,
Yeah.
I know. I mean, Minecraft is now... Don't even get me started. Anyway. So, do you guys think, right, that Twitch is generally... So I want to start with Emma and then we'll go to Mel. Do you think that this is the future of broadcasting? Now, before you answer that, I ask this because I see a lot of the way that broadcasters on television have amended their programming during lockdown, and it's very uninspired. It's just like, here I am, but I'm in my house, but there's nothing else going on. And it's the same old faces with the chat shows and everything else. Boring. There's no interactivity, there's nothing. What do you think, Emma? Is this the future?
It has to be. I mean, especially right now. That was my thing, was I basically, when all of the lockdown stuff became apparent that it was imminent, about a week before all of that, I basically went, all right, well, I just need to figure out how to set. I basically already had all of the materials I needed to start streaming on Twitch. I was like, well, I better get everything set up, because it sounds like I may be stuck in my house for quite some time. And it's always something that I had wanted to do. And in discovering Twitch, like, I constantly am going, oh, okay, well, like, how can I make upgrades to my streaming setup? Like, what else can I add? And now at this point, like, I'm fully committing to the green screen life. Obviously, you can see I've got it draped behind me here, but I like set up acoustic foam in my closet. Like, I've converted my closet into a studio. because I want that professional level quality, and so I'm constantly looking to make improvements, and like interacting with my chat is just as much as it is, I think, for them, like it helps me as well to feel like I am not so alone. And I think that is the thing is Twitch is so much about community building, and like this is the way that we're gonna be able to like stay in touch as humans, is to do things like broadcasting through Twitch and interacting with our chat. And like a voice actor friend of mine stopped by my stream the other day, and he was like, wow, I love how you keep up with what's going on in your chat. And I'm like, well, I only really want to play games where I can keep up with what's going on in my chat, because otherwise, why am I here?
Yeah, absolutely. That's why I stopped playing Red Dead Redemption. I kept falling off my horse, and I was like, you know what? This is not working for me. And
you're like, this doesn't work for my stream.
I was like, I'm running over dogs. They're dying. I'm like trampling them. I'm falling off my horse. Now, same question to Mel, and because Mel, you work in television as well, I want to ask, as well, on top of that, do you think TV is slow to respond to the changes?
Because of the pandemic, or the future in general?
Future.
We're going as fast as we can in terms of the pandemic. Speaking as someone who works for a very large company, that has offices around the world, which I won't name check because professional.
Yes, exactly.
We're doing what we can in order to film new stuff within the health and safety regulations that we have to do at the moment, which I'm not sure if any of you have watched the catch-up show for Tiger King on Netflix.
No, not yet.
If you've watched Tiger King, watch the kind of catch-up afterwards, which is brilliant. It's basically a presenter who's obviously been contracted by Netflix to do a catch-up show, and all the contributors have basically been sent iPhones and they're all chatting to each other in like a FaceTime thing. Like it's going to be how the Drag Race finale is going to be,
right?
So it's kind of all very zoomed, kind of like, but lots of things. But I mean, that is basically what we can film at the moment. Unless you're doing like news broadcasting, or I know here in the UK this morning are still filming, but our presenters are sat 2 meters apart, which is hilarious.
I know, it's so
hilarious. Yes.
It's like, I'm sorry, but like it's not me. It's just like it's so stupid and weird.
Which kind of makes sense, but I've spoken to numerous people. I think we've probably bored them about the fact that I think curated content in general, and not just live streaming, is the future of broadcasting. And I think TV as a medium is slowly going to not die, but definitely lessen its grip on like what people do in their households. Netflix and like having things on demand, people are used to watching what they want when they want passively. But in terms of having, like, when I was younger, we would all sit down and watch Noel's House Party on a Saturday night, which was like a variety style show type thing here in the UK, Emma. And
set in a place, in a fictional place, Emma.
It was called Crinkly Bottom.
It was called Crinkly, very British, Crinkly Bottom, the fictional village. Oh, and I loved it.
Very British.
You don't tend to have appointment TV anymore, unless it's Doctor Who, in my case.
Yeah.
In which case I watch it go out live, so no one can ruin it for me. But you will get appointment streams.
Yes.
Like, people will go, oh,
you're so right.
Yeah, it's 9 o'clock tonight. So and so is continuing playing such and such. Or like during lockdown, because I'm terrible at looking after it myself when I work from home, I've been doing hour lunchtime streams where I'm literally off the clock. I'm with my community for the hour and come back. Everyone knows 1:30 every day. I'm live for an hour and then I disappear again. Like I am appointment content, and I think that's slowly what's going to start happening. Is that people are going to curate their content to what they want to watch when they want to watch it, but the live aspect of being able to interact on Twitch is what I think they really don't get.
You're super right about appointment content and event television having really gone by the wayside in recent years, because so much of it is on demand. I mean, and not only is so much content on demand, it's crazy for me to go and watch network television now, because I find that I mostly watch Netflix series and like Amazon Prime series, because the thing is those series aren't trying to do the same numbers as television, so it's more niche content to begin with.
Yes.
And they're allowed to like take bigger risks in some ways than a network television show is. So to me, go and now like watch some network shows, I'm like, oh man, these are very formulaic, in a way that something like a Hulu series isn't. So, but you're right though, because I remember like that was one of the things that was such a big deal about Game of Thrones, was it was event television. So whether you liked the way Game of Thrones went with things or ever liked the show at all, you can't deny the cultural impact of that. And I think on a much smaller scale, you're completely right about live broadcasts on Twitch. It is appointment content. It's as you say, I know this person is going to be live from this time to this time, and they're playing this video game, or they're doing a YouTube deep dive the way that Claire does sometimes, whatever it is. It's important to be there live. People feel like they want to be there live to interact with the chat. I mean, that to me was the craziest thing, was not realizing how much I was going to enjoy playing the video games that I like to play, which are all story-based games, with chat watching. I'm a huge Final Fantasy VII fan. I have been since the original game came out in 97, and I just streamed the entire remake with people watching along on Twitch, and I would not have had it any other way. I played some side quests off stream, but for the most part, I certainly played all of the major story beats on stream with chat watching, and it was more similar to how I experienced the game originally.
Yes.
Because I played with my brother.
Yeah, you're hanging out. You're hanging out.
Yeah, hanging out. Exactly. Like I was hanging out. Like my brother and I used to play one-player video games together all the time. And we would just switch off who was playing because we were experiencing a story together.
Yes.
And so Twitch was able to recreate that experience for me. But instead of beating the game with like just my brother watching, I was playing the game with, 120 people watching me beat this game that I had wanted to play since it was announced 5 years ago. So it really is a much more communal experience than watching Netflix shows in a vacuum.
I'm also very proud of you, Emma, for only mentioning Final Fantasy VII once. Because my God, this girl loves Final Fantasy VII. Jeez.
You totally need to talk to my other half, Inel. He is still playing through. He is absolutely loving it. I
loved it so much.
He wants to cosplay as Barrett. He's just there. He's just like big boy Barrett, and I was like, yes. Okay. So he's really, really, really enjoying Final Fantasy.
I love that. I love that so much.
What's really lovely about how you said that is like, I know we've been talking about community and people interacting from a viewer point of view, but you're saying that basically your enjoyment of the game was also increased because you were sharing it with people. And I kind of feel that's how I am now. If I see a game coming out or something niche and indie, first of all, I think, oh my God, I love that. But then I also think, oh my God, the guys are going to love this too. Like they'll really get this, like they'll vibe with it. And it becomes, it's not like a one-way thing. Like I'm making content that people will enjoy. Yes. It's like, no, I'm making content that I enjoy, that I'm hoping my community are going to enjoy as well.
Yeah, that you will enjoy with me. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And final question for you guys, both of you. Start with Mel, actually. So in terms, Mel, obviously we can be very creative on Twitch. This time has been very creative. What are you going to be doing with your channel going forward? Because you're going to be working at home. I think all of us are for the foreseeable future. So is there any changes coming to your channel we can watch out for?
Where are we now? We're May, aren't we? I'm not envisaging me even going back to part-time work in London until at least October, November.
Right. Okay.
So yeah, I am home for a while. I mean, obviously I'm hoping the lockdown eases up before then, but in terms of me physically working in the office, I'm going to be cranking up my talk show, Bog of Eternal Stench. In fact, I have been teaching myself After Effects over the weekend, which is slightly scary, but I think I'm getting there. So yeah, I'm in the middle of revamping what is technically going to be series 2. We got a bigger budget, so we got After Effects. So I think that, and I think generally I'm kind of still playing about with it being quite nice that my regular daytime streams, because I've never really been a daytime streamer. So I think I'm going to play about with more streaming during the day rather than in the evenings at the weekend, and kind of see how that goes. But I'm definitely going to try and build up my Bog of Eternal Stench format, and hopefully make it look a bit more shiny and new, which of course is a Labyrinth total riff.
Oh, I got you on the Labyrinth
so
reference.
You an apple, and I was like,
yeah, we're nerds. It's fine. Emma's got you, man.
Good.
And Emma, you should ask Emma to be in the Bog of Eternal Stench, because I want to see.
Oh my god, 100 times.
I would love to. What Emma would toss into the Bog of Eternal Stench. What would you toss? And that's all it is. It's just like tossing crap you don't like into the Bog of Eternal Stench. Is such a good show.
You don't decide. Chat vote live as we go along, basically. So you put forward a case, and then the chat decide whether or not you're way off course or not. But yeah, that's my baby at the moment. And I know for Christmas, me and Claire have spoken about it before, but I would really like to try and do very similar, like as Emma, you've done like tabletop role play type things. I'd really like to do a murder mystery evening, because I love detective stuff. So I kind of want to do a live version of Cluedo around December this year. But I've got lots of ideas. But other than that, just keeping sane and surviving at the moment.
What about you, Emma? What kind of things, what changes, apart from putting foam all over your room and keeping it soundproof, what kind of changes do we have coming to your channel? Any new content? Any things we need to
well, I'm trying to figure out exactly, because again, like I knew when I started, I knew that the Final Fantasy VII remake release was imminent, and that I wanted to dedicate so much of my time to that. But yeah, right now we're sort of figuring out exactly what I'm doing going forward. It was so funny. I was playing Final Fantasy 15 a little bit last week, and but Andy and my friends Janelle Santa Cruz and Andy Campbell, they really wanted me to play. Well, specifically, Janelle wants me to play Witcher 3 because Andy never finished it. And she would like to see the ending. So I did. It was $20. So I was like, well, I'll just pick that up. So I might start Witcher 3 this week and kind of decide if I want to continue with that or Final Fantasy 15 going forward. I have a couple of very dedicated community members who've also helped me out a lot in Animal Crossing that are voting hard for me to play Witcher 3. So we'll see. That'll probably happen. But I don't know. Again, I've got an open plot on my island, so I might just do a villager grind today, especially if Mel's going to send me a bunch of Nook Miles tickets.
Honestly, you want Nook Mile tickets? I'm your girl right now.
Sweet.
I'm trying to pay off my basement loan, so I'm not going anywhere at the moment.
Got it. Yep, like, I feel ya.
They're talking the language, and I'm like, oh, they're talking that language again. I'm like, oh no, I don't know. Turnips, nooks, I don't know.
Yeah, I spent a cool $1 million on turnips this week, so I'll be looking to sell those as well.
This is now becoming just an advert for Animal Crossing, guys. Nook Miles,
great game, guys. Pick it up.
Right, guys, it's the end of the podcast, but we'll be sticking around after we finish recording this for a live Q&A on Twitch here. So please make sure that you get your questions ready if you're watching along live, and please highlight your questions so that we can answer them. Guys, where can we find you online? First of all, Mel, where can we find you online?
Me, isn't it? Hold on. There we go. I am Her Name is Malula on Twitch. I am also Her Name is Malula on Twitter, and also on the Instagram.
Yeah, it's very easy. It's just so on brand. And Emma,
I'm very branding.
Where are you? Where are you?
I'm in the exact same boat. I'm Emma Fyffe everywhere Emma Fyffes are sold. Twitch, Instagram, and Twitter mostly is where you will find me.
I'm unfortunately not on brand all the time, which is really annoying because We Claire is very common, obviously. So I'm We Claire on Twitter because I got in that game very early, and then I'm We Claire here everywhere else pretty much. So you can follow us all here. You can see it on the screen, and if you're listening along on Spotify or iTunes, then there will be information there. So guys, it's been absolutely lovely. Do subscribe on Spotify, YouTube, and iTunes, etc. Emma, Mel, please say goodbye. Has been absolutely lovely to have you. Thank you very much for joining us.
Of course, this was a blast.
This has been Crossing Streams. Good luck, young streamers, on your streamy journey, and we will see you very soon. Bye-bye!